detailed instructions on how to convert the new gas furnace platform from the upflow configuration from the factory to a zero clearance downflow, meaning that the piping will be all contained inside the furnace and it can be put in a zero clearance application right up against a wall or a tight closet. So the first part of this, the first step to making this conversion is to remove the flue transition and elbow. So that's what we'll do first. To make this removal easier, we recommend that you loosen all 4 of the hose clamps that attach the inducer, attach the coupling and the elbow to the inducer. Remove that, discard it, and now pull this hose D off of the inducer coupling and pull out the elbow. We'll save the elbow for later. We'll have to use that again, but we'll go ahead and reinstall the coupling going to the inducer. Very important that you keep that inducer mounted the correct way, because it has an arrow on it telling you which way the airflow is supposed to go. The airflow should be pointing, the arrow should be pointing outside of the cabinet, towards the outside of the cabinet. Next thing we're going to do is remove the condensate trap. Go ahead and remove these hoses from the top of the trap. Keep hose D. You'll need to need to use that later. You will use the 2 5/8 inch plug that came in your RXGY-CK kit and put that into the top left corner of the furnace. We'll also remove the plug that's in the blower shelf and discard that. There's another plug on the right side of the cabinet. You'll remove that plug and you'll relocate this plug from here in the blower shelf up to the top right corner of the furnace. Also, there's a plug in the top left of the collector box. You'll pull that plug out, this plug, and we'll install that where the condensate trap was previously connected. Now we will install hose E into the onto the collector box where we removed the plug a few minutes ago. Recommend using soapy water to facilitate the insertion of the tube onto the collector box. Makes it easier. Next thing, we will go back and we will install the elbow that we removed earlier from the inducer coupling. This time we will orient it the opposite direction. It was previously like this. We're going to mount it like this. So we'll take this coupling back off, insert that, and install this back on. At this point you can tighten up the hose clamp a little bit. You don't want to get it completely tight now because you may have to adjust it in a little while to make sure that your piping fits proper. I'll go ahead and adjust it. Now at this point we will relocate this vinyl cap from this position to this position. The next step is to remove the knockouts in the bottom of the furnace. At this point in the instructions, we have this furnace standing up. I have laid this furnace down on its back to make this a simpler conversion without having to do without having to flip the furnace 180 degrees. We state that for a reason in our instructions to make it clear. When it's written instructions, it's easier to read if you have the furnace standing upright and then you turn it 180 degrees. But for visual and for simplicity, I have set the furnace on its back, laid it down with its face straight up, and able to, in order to make this conversion process a little bit easier. So I have already knocked out the knockouts, but you can see there's two knockouts in the bottom plate of the furnace. At this point, that's when you will knock these out. Use a flathead screwdriver and a hammer to disengage those knockouts. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to move the junction box from this side of the furnace to this side of the furnace, as well as the switch here. So we will move both of those to the other side of the furnace on this next step. Okay, I've repositioned the camera so you can see what I'm going to do here. I'm going to pull the wiring off of this. Locate the switch over here. Make sure you follow the electrical instructions in the I-know to make sure that you have wired this switch back up properly. There's a knockout right here, the plug you need to remove. Okay, we have relocated the switch and the junction box, which will make it, which will facilitate the pipe running through the cabinet. Now it has room to run through here. Okay, another part of this step is to drill a couple of holes in the blower shelf so that you can screw to it later. You can see that we pre-drilled an 1/8 of an inch hole here and an 1/8 of an inch hole right here. So make sure that you have an 1/8 of an inch drill bit in order to complete that step. There's another couple of holes that you need to pre-drill before you do it over here. These are 3/16 diameter holes that you need to drill. That will allow you to mount the condensate trap when it's time to do that. For our next step, we're going to mount the air intake coupling and the air diffuser. This will be installed on the right side of the cabinet in the blower shelf. Put this in. Next we will install the diffuser. It comes up through the air intake coupling and seats in here like that. The good thing about that diffuser is if you do forget to install it before you put your piping on, you can always install it from the other side. So you can install it from this side. Simply squeeze the legs together and put it back in there. Okay, we're about to prepare the trap to be ready to be installed. The first thing we need to do is remove the little metal bracket and the 2 screws, and we'll throw those away. We will not discard those. We also remove this plug from the top of the trap, and then we install the plug that came with the RXGY-CK kit into the back of the trap. Alright, next thing we will do is install the bracket onto the condensate trap. I'll show you how that goes. This is the bracket that comes in the kit as well. We will install that onto the condensate trap just like that, and use 2 screws to secure it. Okay, I've installed the bracket on the condensate trap now. It's time to go down here and install, remove the plug and get ready to install the trap. Okay, we'll come down here, pull out this plug, and install the bulkhead coupling. Be careful not to over tighten these, you can break the flange. Okay, before we install our condensate trap, we're going to install the piping for the venting. So we're going to put the piping in. The first piece we're going to put in is this piece. It's the short, straight. This is the air intake. And there are 2 pieces of PVC pipe like this in your kit. This is the shorter of the 2, and it's completely straight. We will install that on the right side of the furnace. Move the wires out of the way. Push it into this coupling. For demonstration purposes, I'm not going to glue this, but you need to use PVC glue on this joint when you install it in the field. Okay, the next step is going to be to install this piece. It's the longer of the 2 PVC pipes, and you notice it does have a slight angle on this end. This is a little bit tricky to get in, but there is a trick to it. I want to show you how to do that in this video to make your life a little bit easier. You do want to come in from the inside of the jacket, take it through the bottom plate, and then slide it up in through here. This is the tricky part where you got to do a little. You kind of got to work it, get it through there. It's a very tight fit. Then you slide it into your elbow coupling, and you tighten down your brackets. And you'll put 2 screws in here and here. Okay, to save time, I went ahead and made those screw connections to the blower housing off camera, but I wanted to let you know that you do need to put 2 screws in there to seal that. The next step that we're going to do is we're going to put on the brackets here at the end to make sure the hoses or the vent pipes stay in place. There are no pre-drilled hose here. You simply slip these on. I pre-drilled these before the exercise, but there are no dimples or anything in the cabinet. You simply put those on, mark them with your drill, and then drill holes here, all 4 holes on each side, and then we'll put screws in those to secure that. Okay, I fastened those down off camera to speed things up a little bit so this video's not that long, but you can see I've used all 8 screws and secured both pipes with the white brackets. Okay, the next step is going to be to install the condensate trap at the proper location. We pre-drilled the hose earlier for 3/16, so they were basically clearance hose, so the screws that you're going to attach the trap with would go through the jacket easily. So we will install the trap now. We will go ahead and connect the hose that we connected to the collector box earlier in this exercise. Hose E connects to the top of the trap. The 1/4-inch hose that you get in your kit, you need to cut that to approximately 10.5 inches. Connect it to the collector box. The vent hose goes to the collector box and over to the condensate trap. Okay, at this point we'll go back and we'll get hose D that we removed earlier in the exercise, hose D, and we will install that from the condensate trap to here. Now, if you want to drain out the right side of the furnace in the downflow application, you use the hose that came with it. Get the additional hose clamp so we get a secure fit. Put it on there. And that is it for if you're going to drain out of the right side of the cabinet in downflow. There's an alternate kit, an alternate tube draining kit that you can come out of the left side of the cabinet, and I'm going to hook that up real quick and show you what that looks like once it's installed. Before we do that, this is your final configuration for the zero clearance downflow kit, draining out of the right side of the cabinet. Okay, if you need to drain out of the left side of the cabinet in a downflow zero clearance application, you will use tube C as shown here. It comes in the kit with the furnace as an alternate drain kit, and you will attach hose B here to the end of it. And then we will simply install that. Hose B will connect to the trap itself over here, and then tube C will come over here and connect to the bulkhead coupling. Slide up our hose clamps to get a good fit on both ends, and that's it. That is how you drain out of the left side in a zero clearance downflow application.